Hello there, everyone, and welcome to ReGen Talks. I am Pamela Humes, the Director of Educational Outreach for Alternatives Care Centers, but tonight I am in my role as the Director for ReGen Next, where we make healthy relationships the priority, where we are always talking about strategies that will help to avoid risk behaviors, whether we are speaking directly to students or speaking to parents or just out in community, making sure that we know how to make the healthiest choices. ReGen Next. It's where you want to be. That's who you want to talk to. And tonight, we are talking to a star. Boom, Stephanie Pichan.
Oh, you're too kind.
Welcome to ReGen Talks this episode. Stephanie is a trusted comrade, professional peer, daughter, I think too.
That's right.
And Stephanie, I'm going to let you tell folks a little bit about what you do.
Okay. I'm the sexual health coordinator for Alternatives and the project coordinator for ReGen Next. And one of my main roles is I work directly with the youth. So I teach a sexual health and healthy relationships curriculum to middle schoolers, high schoolers, and I also work with college students as well. And really just helping the youth, these adolescents, to think critically, to make healthy choices so that they can achieve optimal health.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. And that is key. Optimal health, maximum health. That is what we are hoping for those we serve, for again, students, for families. So what we're going to talk about tonight is something that is very, very timely because of what we are walking through with the COVID pandemic. We love and use technology all the time, and it's fantastic. But because we are at a point where we really can't do things in person, we're spending a lot of time in front of screens. And so are our kids, so are students. And that's a beautiful thing when it comes to being able to access, academic work and trying to continue to move forward. But it also opens up a threat of sorts. And that threat is the threat of online pornography. Okay, materials that are not healthy or safe for young people. Now, when I talk to you about this, Stephanie, you get a little tight. This is one of those things, and trafficking that just stirs you. Tell me, what is your major concern? Why do you get moved so much when we are talking about the effects of online porn?
There's a lot of stuff on the internet that is coming from people that don't have their best interest in mind. And they're taking advantage of them. They're taking advantage of their vulnerabilities, just as they are as teens. So there's a study that recently came out from the Children's Hospital in Chicago. And they talked to, I think it's about 3,000 parents, and about 63% of these parents of teens said that their teens were using social media more now than they were before COVID. And actually, a lot of these parents are also loosening their restrictions for social media.
Mm-hmm. I can somewhat understand that. Kids have lost access to so many things. In-person activities, and with parents still needing to work, at times, and really not knowing how to engage and not knowing what to do, and feeling bad, about what has been taken, from kids. I can see them loosening the restrictions.
Yeah. The other thing. Oh,
no, go ahead.
I was going to say the other thing that I guess makes me passionate about this topic is that I always like to get to the root cause of issues that we are experiencing, that we are seeing. And I really believe that pornography is just such a negative influence that is infiltrating a lot of things that we are seeing today. Whether it is the casual nature of relationships, sexting, more kids being victims of trafficking. All of that is being fueled by pornography and how that is shaping the values and how people see others, how they view sexual relationships. So pornography has a really negative influence on a lot of things, on a person individually, on society. And I think that a lot of people don't really understand the negative consequences of it, or how much it is actually influencing a lot of these negative things that we're seeing in society today.
Yeah, I agree. There's a clip that I would like to show. You're very familiar with this book. It's American Girls, Social Media and the Secret Life of Teenagers. It's written by a journalist and the author. Her name is Nancy Jo Sales. You had mentioned this book a while ago, and I started looking at it. Haven't read the whole thing, but her insight is so valuable. I want to play a clip from an interview that she did on PBS.
I mean, I think the kind of elephant, maybe dinosaur in the room right now is pornography. Pornography has been available online for some time, but I don't think we've really begun to have a conversation about what that is doing to kids. And we know that they're watching it. They're teenagers. They're going through puberty. They're curious. They're watching pornography. But this tends to be more and more violent pornography that is also, one could, I think, reasonably say, very degrading to women. And this is where a lot of teenagers now find their sex ed. And porn is also, the porn aesthetic is also really engulfing social media. And social media is just full of really explicit sexual content. And whether or not your child wants to see it or intends to see it, they're likely to see it.
What happens to all of us when there's, on the one hand, kind of a hypersexualization, hypermasculization on the boys' side and girls' side, and if this is the new sex ed, they've really reduced the female body down into this thing they can swipe across.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really challenging for girls especially to have an expectation to produce images of themselves in order to get validation, the validation that everybody seems to want of likes and friends and followers. It's very challenging to them, I think, to have an expectation to produce images of themselves which are sexualized, in which they look quote unquote hot. And also to have to navigate through all these emotions that come through comments that might be on those pictures that are about just how hot they are or how not hot they are.
Yeah, very interesting, because she just summed up essentially what you were saying. We need to start having these conversations because people don't necessarily realize the effects that pornography is actually having on our young people. What messaging, like you are teaching young people, what do you tell not just young women, but young men, regarding this? Do they ever open up to you about the effects, the influences of pornography, or how they experience it in their culture?
Honestly, when I talk about pornography, the kids get pretty quiet. Okay.
Oh, okay.
But when I did, they do. It's like they're like, deer in headlights. But when I talk to college students about it, they're pretty open. And they have talked about how they feel pressured to perform in a way that is modeled in pornography.
Mm. I have read that as well, that many of even the grooming techniques that we adhere to today were all about things that were seen in pornography. But people don't necessarily understand that. Even the performance, the sexual performances that are there, that is starting to in folks' minds make them think that this is what they need to do. This is how they need to look. This is, and if I am less than this, I'm not good enough. But there's something wrong with me. When actually, you probably need to talk to the prop specialists that are setting up the shot, because there are lots of extra things that are a part of that shot that's not necessarily biologically possible.
Yeah, but well, I don't know if I should go here. I guess you can cut it out if you need, but I actually read that, and I don't know what the actual procedure is called, but there's been an increase in males getting some sort of procedure that makes their penis larger.
Wow. Okay.
Plasty or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Again, cut this out if you need to.
This is interesting. Well, join the club, because you know what? Women have been doing that forever until, getting implants and trying to make themselves something that they weren't, until the implants started bursting, and it was causing, health issues. And so now people are taking their implants out. So, guys, you may want to talk to folks who have been there, done that. That's not maybe the healthiest thing to do.
But yeah, I think, you make a good point that, it's not realistic. And, I think that is the danger with all media, right? And even when we look at social media, people are you've heard people say, it's just people's highlight reels that they're showing. So we're not really getting a dynamic view, we're not seeing what reality is. We're seeing, all these clips that are put together into one. We're not seeing the in-betweens or all the things that went into it. So it's not real.
Yeah, that's it. Something else, there's another clip. This is amazing. You are just like a beautiful segue into these clips. This is something that Nancy Jo Sales talks about too, though, that even in her experience in talking with these young women, it seems like they understand it, but there's something that still draws them. Let's take a look at this clip and hear what she has to say about that.
Yeah, I talked to more than 200 girls in 10 states over 30 months, and one of the things that struck me the most was how self-aware they are, how articulate they were, how analytical they were about this very thing that they were engaged in so much of the time. And they're quite aware of the ways in which it's really toxic. And yet they can't leave it, because this is the swamp they're swimming in. This is the world they're enmeshed in, where you have to be on it or you're not part of the conversation. You're not part of what's happening. It's a girl in New Jersey described it as a second world that we live in. There's the real world, and then there's the second world that we're simultaneously in kind of all the time.
Well, and first of all, I want to point out, I love how she talks about how it's a second world that these teens are going into, because it really is. It's like they're walking into this whole other world. But I think, what she's talking about, and teens not being able to pull away from it, I think it's threefold. What you're saying, that the adolescent development, they're operating on their limbic system. And so they're not able to, say no or stop clicking, because, they don't have those breaks, I guess, to keep them from doing that. But also it's just the addictive nature of technology, and it's designed to be that way. It's designed to be addictive in nature, because they want people to continue to use it. And then, the kids don't want to feel left out. They might get pressured or bullied if they don't know what's going on, or if they're not part of whatever is going on. So it's really threefold, and making it difficult for them, even though maybe maybe they don't like it, maybe they don't want to be on it as much as they are. Maybe maybe they feel pressured to post images, in a certain way that perceives them in more of a sexual way. Maybe they don't really want to do that, but they feel pressured.
Right. That first segment, she mentioned the word validation, We can never get away from that word because that follows us really our entire lives until we realize where our validation is actually supposed to come from. We're always looking for someone to give it to us. And that's especially true, for young people. Mm-hmm. So let's take a look at this third clip and see what she has to say about screen time.
It's different to communicate from behind a screen, and this is true for adults as well. I mean, we know this from multiple studies that when you communicate from behind a screen, you're more likely to say things that you wouldn't face to face. You're more likely to be aggressive, and even some studies say unethical. Now, think about that. Like, we have children now growing up on phones, learning to communicate with each other and be people from behind a screen in an environment in which, it's okay to do stuff that you wouldn't do if you were with the person. I think that's really something that I think parents really need to think about when they think about how their kids are growing up now.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Do you find that to be true, or do you think that's true, that people do act differently behind a screen?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see it in adults, and I see it all the time in the way that people, respond to social media posts or interact with other people on social media. It's like there's a lack of care or compassion there. And just, respect for the other person. So I think, communicating online kind of takes away that personal element of, standing in front of that person, looking into their eyes. Mm-hmm. I think that it takes away from that element.
Yeah, I agree. We were talking about this a little earlier, and it went into, it kind of went into a faith realm, because I think that's just an important part of developing one's character, my perspective anyway. And I would encourage folks to definitely consider, when someone is right in front of you, how you are engaging. But the other thing is, who are you when no one can see you? That is what is being talked about when people are behind a screen, but that's also a question of character. Who are you when no one is there to hold you accountable? No other human being. You still need to think about your character in those moments. For us, those of us who are followers, of faith, that's why I think a moral authority is so important to us. It's not just about who others see us as. It's who are we when no one but our God is there, to see us. And that's what we work towards. And that is a lesson that I think we want to instill in our children, whether you are a believer or not, whether you follow faith or not. Who are you when no one is watching, or when no one can really hold you accountable and you can get away with things?
Right.
That's what we as parents need to start thinking about, and making sure that we are instilling in our kids, from the young women who we want them to develop the self-esteem to say, no, I don't need to do that. And right down to the young men too, our sons. I need sons to stop asking. That's it. Stop asking.
Yeah. And, when we work with the youth and we talk about the building blocks of a healthy relationship, we talk about respect and we talk about unselfish love. And, we go into that activity and, how do you show respect? How do you show unselfish love, for different people, different relationships you have in your life? So whether it's, peers or classmates or someone you're dating or, adults in your life, your parents, coaches, or, so on. But really start to get them to think about that. You know, how do you respect? What does respect mean, first of all, and how do you show respect?
Right.
What is unselfish love, and how do you show unselfish love to others? Because that's really what it's about. It's about really caring about and loving another person, not wanting to hurt another person. I think, you know, that's the other thing too about when people say things online, you know, I say, you know, you can't see the other person, you can't see their eyes, but you can't see their reaction. When someone says something to another person that is hurtful, they're not seeing, you know, the hurt in that person's face. They're not seeing the reaction.
Right.
Or, you know, and they can, if that person responds, they can decide to ignore it.
Right.
You can decide to block them. You know, so it's a very one-sided, very selfish approach.
All right. With that, thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate it so much. It's good to see you.
Thanks, Mama Pam.
All right. All right, sweetie. We'll talk to you later. Good night, y'all. Hello, everyone, and thank you for watching ReGen Talks. Whether it's family or friendships or romance, if healthy relationships are important to you, like and subscribe to our channel. You can also connect with us on Instagram at regeneration_next and on Facebook at ReGenNext. Or you can visit our website at regennext.com. We'd love to hear from you because what you think matters.